Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I'm speaking with Braydan Young, and Braydan is not a stranger to setting up businesses and startups. But this time, moving on from his previous organizations, he is the co-founder and CEO of a new company called SlashExperts. Hi, Braydan. Thanks for being on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what SlashExperts is all about?
Yeah, hi Natalie, good to be here. Yeah, the pain of starting companies. I was like, I'm gonna go do it for a third time. Why not, right? See if I can do it again. Yeah. So what the company does is we saw a pain at my previous company called Sendoso, where we had a ton of people come to the site and they weren't ready to take a demo yet. They're doing research, kicking tires, if you will, and just looking for like, hey, like, do I want to purchase this tool? And we would see they would go to professional networks. They'd ask about Sendoso. They'd be like, hey, is this a good tool? Do you use anyone like it? Would I recommend it? And so they back channel us. And we're like, there has to be an easier way to encourage back channels from our website. So we built this thing called SlashExperts, where if you go to it and you're sitting on a page, Sendoso in this example, there'll be a pop-up. It'll say, hey, you should talk to an expert. An expert is a customer. So we help connect prospects to customers as the very first step in the sales cycle. So not totally cutting out sales, but just taking advocates of the product and putting them front and center to be your first conversation. So you can get kind of a true live review of that tool and decide if you want to move forward or not. It's been cool to see grow because it's as sales changes, as the typical disco, talk to a sales rep, have a demo model changes. I think that peer-to-peer selling will be only larger as time goes on. So what it does. It's been fun to sell. We've been at it for a while now. There's a bunch of companies in there that if you add SlashExperts to their domain, they'll pop up and you can see their entire category of customers that are willing to have conversations with prospects.
Oh, wow. I know I was probably one of those tire kickers at one point.
Yeah, we all have been, right? I mean, like we all go and read reviews, and I'm like, I don't know if I could trust these reviews. Like, and so then we go look for peers and friends who are using those tools and have conversations. And why not encourage that from a company standpoint?
Yeah. And I think today, if you're buying tech for your organization, a lot of that time is spent doing research before you even ask your network. So I think this is definitely something that's going to have a massive impact on the industry. So with that, you're a co-founder. You've been a co-founder before. Talk to me about the team and your kind of roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, as a co-founder. So, it's you name it. It kind of depends on like right now we're small, so it's engineering and my co-founder and I do everything kind of go to market. He does everything CX and engineering and product. So there's really no shortage of things you can be working on. Engineering is the one thing I don't work on. I've gotten pretty good at wireframing and telling folks what I want, but the engineering team at SlashExperts was the same one that helped us build my original startup, Coffee Sender. Then they helped us build Sendoso, and then now they're on this one. So when I left Sendoso, I hired them all back. They'd all left Sendoso at that time to come help me build SlashExperts. It's the same team. It's amazing when you find the folks that you like to build with, that you trust. Like those are the people you want to keep working with because you don't have to micromanage them. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows how the other person works, and that's kind of nice when you're building companies.
It also saves so much time as well, trying to figure
So much
out
time.
how to communicate, how people are motivated. You understand what makes each other tick and where your strengths are. So that's fantastic. Plus, they obviously trust you enough to want to come back.
I guess, right? I don't know. Are they like they're like, yeah, I'll go build something new with Braden. I think it's one of those things where like they trust that what I'm building hopefully will be successful. I think it's one of those things that helps. And we had success in the past and hopefully we get to do it again.
Exactly, exactly. So taking you back, how did you get into tech in the first place?
And so came out of university and went into insurance. Like, watch out. At
Wow.
yeah, I know, right? Like way opposite. It's like old school, like suit and tie every day, 22 years old, selling life insurance. And like it was cool, man. I learned a ton. I learned sales. But I always knew I would get in trouble for not following process because it was like a 100-year-old company and process made no sense to me. And then I wanted to do things like webinars. And this was like 2010. So webinars weren't that big yet. And we didn't have a CRM, which made no sense to me either. So I couldn't try. It was all on paper. And I remember I went into my boss's office and I was like, hey, I want to try this webinar. And there's like, no, we're a 100-year-old company. Like we do things in person. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is not, it's not where I need to be. So I was like, I needed to go into tech. Because at the time, like tech was having like its heyday in San Francisco where I was. And I went and I got two job offers. One was with Demand Force, which was like my first step into tech. It was like a software for dentists, and that's where I ended up going. And the other one was with a company called Zimride, which changed their name to Lyft after a week of not taking that job. So missed that one. But it was cool to kind of to kind of the tech world was moving fast and we were learning how to do transactional sales and I loved it. And so I kind of got hooked at that point and then jumped around a bunch of startups until I started my own on the side, which having a side hustle in San Francisco was like the thing to do at the time. So the first one was called Coffee Sender, which was a Starbucks gift card system. And then that eventually became Sendoso.
Ah, brilliant. That makes total sense now. So I was going to ask you what kind of spurred Sendoso and how you and the team came up
It
with
was
the concept.
it's a pretty good story. So the story goes, me and my co-founder, he's still the CEO at Sendoso, we had this concept to send out Starbucks gift cards, and we didn't have any sort of relationship with Starbucks. We would just buy Starbucks gift cards, and we made it really easy to plug in like e-gifts into emails. And we found this team in Pakistan to help us build it. And we rolled it out. Like month one, we're like, this is great. Like it's changing emails, it's changing how we're reaching out to people. We should see if our friends and sales want to use this. So we sent it out to all of them, and like the first month, it like went crazy, and we were like, we need to buy more Starbucks gift cards. But we had to go. We went to like Starbucks.com and bought like 60 grand in gift cards, and they were like, no, like who are you, and why is our logo all over your website? So we got this like cease and desist letter. They're like, you can't put our logo on your site. What is Coffee Sender? And we got pretty good at SEO, so Coffee Sender was ranking above Starbucks. Like just so we were like, yeah, like they're gonna love this. And so we learned quickly they didn't like it very much. And so we were pitching them on the concept and they were like, fly up to Seattle, pitch us on the idea, which I don't know how we got that meeting. But we went there. We're in this meeting. And like San Francisco's all like places like nice, like Patagonia, like they're all like in suits and ties, and we're on the other side of this table pitching them on this coffee center idea that sending Starbucks gift cards via like integrations and the email was great. And the thing they did was every 15 minutes they'd bring in like another cup of coffee. They'd be like, "Oh, we have coffee samples." But like no one, I think it was like some weird gauntlet where they wanted to see if we could survive like 15 cups of coffee because we drink. And I already run really fast, and so does Chris, my co-founder. We had all this coffee, and pitched them all the idea. They're like, "Great, go for it." So we're like, "Okay, I guess we're good to go." And that was like the moment where we knew that, we were onto something with gifting. Also, account-based marketing was kind of having its like resurgence.
Well, I mean, I did that eventually go from being a tire kicker to a customer of Sendoso, so I can
Nice.
attest to the value that it brought my businesses when I was using it. And the integrations with CRM made my life so, so much easier. So you guys did an amazing job. So super successful organization, been running for sort of 10 years nearly now, I guess, when you add up all that extra stuff. Why then did you decide to kind of leave the organization? I know you're still actively involved
So
as an advisor.
my favorite time at Sendoso was probably the first like 0 to 10. I love the chaos of building something from nothing. Like the whole like once you get over like that hump or like whatever it might be, 10, 20, 30, like your day is spent mostly in process building. It's like process and strategy, which is great. And I think there's amazing people that do amazing jobs there. I like putting a really great process in place, like a deal desk, and they're able to like help go to market scale. That's not me. I enjoy the chaos of like trying to figure out if it's going to work or not. Do we have product market fit? Someone said, like, you gave the list price out at X and they said, I only have 30% of that. Like, should we close the deal or not? Like, those are all like those times are when I enjoy the most. And I guess I just wanted punishment. And I was like, I'm gonna go do this again. And saw this huge problem we had with trying to get more and more deals into our pipeline. It was like, I can build another company. Talk to my family, and they were like, "Okay, go for it." And so, like, it was like, "Let's go try it one more time." The nice part is a lot of our investors at Sendoso were backers in this one too, and SlashExperts, so it was nice to have the support of those folks one more time.
And I think that makes the journey a lot easier. Not only do you have this great founding team of folks that you know and trust and have worked with before, but also to have already done the groundwork on building the relationships with those investors, that makes a huge difference. And I think for a lot of people that are starting out, that's kind of where they're at the moment, is finding the right people to help them get going, and then also how to kind of get funded. And of course, there are bootstrapped companies out there. How did you guys go about finding those initial investors? Did you start bootstrapped? Talk me through that journey.
Yeah. I mean, we so myself and my co-founder were both salespeople, and so we knew sales, but we didn't know the technical side very well. So when we could get meetings with VCs, so we had a really cool idea, but we'd pitch, and their first question would be like, "Who's technical? Like who's helping build this?" And we're like, "Oh, we have a bunch of engineers that are abroad that are helping us," and that never satisfied them. They wanted to have a technical co-founder. I didn't go to Stanford or MIT, and so, like, I went to a state school, and so that was another thing where it just we didn't have the pedigree nor the background to, like, founding a company. But the one thing we could do is we could outsell people because we were trained in, like, how to do sales. So we had a product that kinda worked, and we knew in order to get funding, we had to basically outsell anyone who was in the space, and that's what we did. So we get meetings where we'd go in and we'd be like, "Hey, here's what we're building. Here's how it works." And they'd be like, "Oh, who's your technical person?" We're like, "We abroad." And they're like, "Well," we're like, "And we have 1,000,000 in sales." They're like, "Oh." So like, "Okay." So, like, that was our kind of, like, one thing where we knew how to lean into our strengths to get meetings to and then get funding. But I think even before that, like, we had a lot of conversations, like, if we wanted to go the VC route, because you can build great companies that are bootstrapped that you have to fight through the first couple of years of making nothing, and then you have a company and you have a boss, and that's great. So you have to decide which route you want to go. If it's bootstrapped or if it is raising money from somebody, I would say very early as you're building the company. And we knew we wanted to go VC route because this was like our first company and we wanted to see if we could, raise money and scale. And there were competitors in the space that were old and we were like, we can take them down if we could just do the land grab really quickly. So that's the first decision. And the second one is what are your strengths and lean into it. And the third one is like, as you start to have meetings with folks who are VCs who have money to invest, like just know how they're going to help you because it becomes a team. Like taking a check and saying, great, see you later isn't helpful at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that because you're an advisor yourself, so you help companies with
Yep.
their journeys. So, what has been the approach? You mentioned that you've obviously brought some of those relationships forwards. Is the VC route your kind of approach to building the company, or
It would
not funding?
no, we did the same thing again. I think that like for me is having funding takes a big, I would say, pain off the table. Like, you can pay yourself a little bit. I mean, you're not paying yourself like a crazy salary if you were like a Salesforce, but like you're paying yourself enough to like put food on the table and things like that, which I think is important. And so you're not stressed about that and you can focus on the business. And so like I think that raising money makes a lot of sense. I don't think it needs to be a massive check. I think you needed to raise enough to hire the team you want and to prove if that this idea that you have can become something. And so that's what we raised, was like, we knew we had an idea, we knew it worked, and we went and raised enough to make sure we had a handful of years to prove that this is actually a good hypothesis. And so I think that's the better route to go. Now I have friends who've built amazing bootstrapped companies who are 10 years in, and they pay themselves crazy salaries, and they have no plans to exit. And they're like, I'm good to go. I don't need to. I don't have a board. And so like that's great for those folks too. But like they went through pain like the first 3 or 4 years. It was like just there wasn't pay. It was like kind of scratching and crawling to get to where they wanted to be. I think it depends on what you want to build. You're gonna have to go through the pain somewhere though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The beginning or the end, somewhere in between. So you've already got those relationships, so you know how they work. So that makes your life easier. They've been your bosses before, effectively. So
Right?
you know what to expect now.
They know where I am. They know my kids. They know my wife. It's one of those things where it's nicer the third time around that I know who I want to raise from. It's very easy if you're building a company to find funds sometimes, but sometimes you find funds that you don't want. I would say that there's a lot of cash out there in the world to back ideas, but sometimes taking money from a certain angel investor or certain VC is not helpful. And so I think that like do your research before you take money from anybody, I would say.
And how would if you were a founder today, how would you know? What kind of information are you trying to gather at this point?
I think talking to other founders is a big one. Before we took money from any of our VCs, it's like, great, what your portfolio is like, and can you connect me with the founder of like those companies? I mean, I do a ton of those phone calls where like a founder's looking to take money from a fund that we took money from, and they go, hey, like, how are they to work with? Like that's your first question. And like if sometimes founders who are amazing product people or engineering people, like they don't want oversight at all besides like their once a quarter board meeting, which if that's what you're looking for, like there's certain funds that do just that. They write you a check and they go, good luck. See ya, on the exit day. But we wanted a lot of help. And so I think like we had a lot of those conversations asking if the VCs are involved because that's what we were looking for.
Mm. So what are you bringing from your journeys in the previous startups that you literally are just photocopying, carbon copying from one to another? What are those
Yeah.
things that you're bringing, apart from the team, of course?
Yeah, a lot of go-to-market strategies. So I would say, like using the same sort of tools and outreach metrics that we use. So having tools that will do outbound for me, will book calls for me. The thing that I would say we learned the most was having a constant flow of demos is important. Of course, that's that's always what it is. But like when you have those demos, they're not always sales calls, but they're more you're looking for early adopters, like folks who are willing to beta test it. And so asking those individuals like, hey, like, are you willing to be an advisor? Are you willing to give us a lot of feedback? Like, I won't charge you what I should normally charge you. I'm looking for feedback. And so as you have those demos, are not always sales deals or traditional sales deals like a deck and, you'd send over a price proposal. They're more like you're trying to sell them on the vision you have. And then if they're bought in on it, then it's like, great, how can you help me grow my company? And your first 20, 30 customers should be willing to give you feedback constantly. And like that was the biggest thing we had at Sendoso was our first 30 customers were all advisors. And they told us exactly what we needed to have and didn't need to have or where we messed up. And so I think like that's really important to have the exact same playbook here for our first 30 customers. Also, like I think that we set up tools early, like our CRM was set up on day one. That was so important to Sendoso. We are extremely organized in tools like ClickUp, which we didn't have the first time around, which was so nice to have now where everything has a spot. So staying organized has been great that we didn't do that the first time at all. And then with hiring right now, like we probably hired a lot earlier at Sendoso than we needed to do. And so we're looking at if there's a problem, can AI solve it? Like, can we have something AI wise that can do this task? And if they can't, can we go to a contractor? And if they can't, then we'll hire. So we'll look at revenue per employee a lot more than we used to, for sure.
Interesting. And with that, I'm sure that's just one example of things that perhaps didn't work out as well first time round or second time round at Sunboso.
I don't think we tracked it as much. It was one of those things where it's sort of like we knew it was important, but like we didn't really it was like, okay, yeah, we should look at that at some point. For right now, it's like, how can we make sure our burn stays low? And do we need to hire, or can we solve this through the trillions of AI tools that are out here right now? And when every 3 minutes there's a new one doing something. So like, can this solve a problem that we have?
Mm. So, what other things would you say we don't want to take with us this time round? Things that perhaps, wouldn't work for slash experts that perhaps did work for Sendoso, or things that didn't work for you in the past?
Yeah, so I would say one that probably didn't work at Sendoso was so we hired very quickly, and we don't need to do that this time around. I think we want to make sure we have the right people and scale out those people the right way. So I think that's a huge one. Secondly, I would say like we don't need to raise as much funds as we did at Sendoso. We raised close to 200 million. This is awesome at Sendoso. I mean, it's great. Helped us scale really fast. But we don't need to do that this time. I think that, like, it's always great to go and raise funds, but the bigger goal is how can we become profitable faster is a big thing that a lot of startups didn't concentrate on, I would say in 2018, 2019, even 2021. But now I think, like, that's a lot of our focus is like, hey, like, how can we take, the handful of folks that we have right now and become profitable? And so, like, that's a goal that we have to scale the company, and it's not always like, let's go raise another round every year, which we did at Sendoso, which I'm excited about. I think building a company that can produce a profit early, I think will just make sure we last longer, or just make sure we grow at a more consistent rate.
Got it. So I know that you are extremely passionate about sales and selling. So that's obviously why another reason why you've started back at the beginning again
Yeah.
and in building this company, because as the company grows, you you're less involved in that sales process. You're less involved as you have to scale up the team. Um, but with Slash Experts, obviously you're dealing with customers and going out there and outbounding with the team. What are you doing to build the overall awareness, and what's your kind of go-to on the marketing side?
Yeah, I mean, like, the second time around, like, I'm selling the exact same ICP that I sold Sendoso to, so that's sort of the cheat code. That's the exact same people. I wouldn't build a company that was selling CISOs or something. I was just like, I don't have a network there, and so I was like, "All right, I'm selling marketing, I'm selling salespeople." And so that was helpful. The second one was we look for a partner immediately. Like, one of the big things we did at Sendoso was we partnered with companies like Demandbase and Sixth Sense and Engage Geo, like, right off the bat. And like that was incredibly helpful because they were a lot bigger than we were, and they helped us get in deals. So doing the same thing now for Slash Experts, like, how can we get closer to HubSpot? How can we get closer to even Sixth Sense again? And so I think it's important to have those like right off the bat with growing, because we're a small team. There's only a handful of us. So it's important to have that with your go-to-market strategy. Second is that we're building a new category. And so it's a lot of just grunt work of going to conferences, speaking at shows. Uh, like, they're important, having case studies, pushing your own product out there, getting people to beta test it and push it, talking to the talking heads on LinkedIn, if you will. Like, to get those people to talk about it are important. Like, the people that, like, so I think, like, do that constantly. It takes time. But the hope is that, and then doing as many demos as you can possibly can. Like, anyone who will listen to me right now as to what I'm building, like, I will show my product to. And so it's long days, but it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, here's what I'm doing. And there's not always, it's okay to demo and to not have like a follow up, like, great, I'll send you pricing. It's okay just to show your product off and get people excited about it. And so I think, like, that's an important thing that a lot of us have forgotten, because there always needs to be like what the CTA is. And sometimes when you're starting a company, it's just okay to show it off and get people excited. And they'd be like, great, share it. Like, here's information. Like, share as much as you possibly can in the early days, the first couple years. Like, that's your entire job.
Absolutely. Obviously, with those long days, you mentioned that you've got a family, and you had to get sign off from your wife to
Yeah.
start this business. How have you managed to maintain some level of balance in this journey?
So I'm a lot smarter this time around. Like, I would say, like, when we started Sendoso, I was in my mid-20s, and so it was like 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and in the office 5 days a week. And Now I work a lot smarter. So like my days are there's not as much like just kind of BS like, walking around like meetings for no reason. Like typically everything has like a pretty good my day's very structured. I try to shut it off by, 5 o'clock so I can go hang out with the kid for a while. And then if I need to get back on in the evening or on the weekends, like I'll do that when there's nap time, etc. So I think it's important to just manage your day a lot better. I didn't do that in my 20s. It was more just like, yeah, like just go to the office and hang out and have a beer around like, whenever, and then you go back to work. And so I think as you get older, you get better at knowing what your priorities are. And young kids definitely eat up a lot of time, which is great. And so you just need to make sure when you are working, you're doing the right things.
It's interesting because I hear that a lot about when you're young, especially in the tech world, you've got less responsibilities. You've probably got a little bit more energy and more motivation. So those are the days to be in startup world, building your company.
Yeah.
Would you say that you feel that now is a better time for you because of the experience you have and because you're much more focused, or would you if advise somebody to start a business earlier?
I think you work a lot smarter as you get older. I think like as I've approached 40, it's one of those things where like I know what the tasks are that need to get done. And also I don't stress about it as much. A good example is like when I get an email about something in your 20s, you respond to it immediately. You don't think about it. It's like, here's my response. Like whatever it is, an angry customer, someone has a question. It's like an instant, like 1 minute response. And you have an anxiety if you don't do it. Like now I would say you kind of realize that like I'm not a heart surgeon. Like I'm building software. And so like the world will go on. And so it's one of those things where it's good to keep that mantra going in your head that you don't need to stress out about responding to an email or a Slack. Like you'll get around to it. Granted, I'm not saying take hours. I'm saying just like get around to it when you're on your computer. And so if I think that that just takes time to learn. Like I remember like my first job, the insurance job, when I used to like go to the bathroom, I used to freak out because I'm like, oh man, my boss is gonna walk by and like he's gonna not see me at my desk. Is that cool? Is that not cool? And so like I remember like or like taking a lunch that was like longer than an hour. I'm like, I don't this is crazy. Like I need to go back to the office. I need to be at my desk for some reason. So you sort of learn that like that's not the case as you get older, that it's all okay. But I think those are important lessons that I learned now. Granted, in your 20s, like I have a lot of friends in the AI space that they're working 7 days a week and they're building really cool things in the AI world. But I think you could do that, but I don't know if you'd wake up at the end of it with a family or, close friends, which would be tough.
Yeah, because what else are we doing this for?
Yeah. I mean, maybe the goal is to become financially independent and then go that route, which is cool. I get that. I guess that's a great route. I think it's, better to do it all at once.
Indeed, indeed. So, for those people that are in their early stages of building a business, and perhaps it's their first company, or they haven't bitten the bullet yet, and they're thinking about starting a business, this is your third time. What advice would you give to those folks?
Yeah. The first one is like there's a lot of people willing to help. So I think that the big thing is like on LinkedIn, there's so much spam that's out there, but to find people on LinkedIn that are in your world and to send like an actual personalized, like not a personalized note that we all get, but the actual like, hey, I'm thinking about building this company and I saw you've done it already. Like, can I, buy a cup of coffee and pick your brain? Most founders, most executives are willing to have that conversation to help people build their dream. And I think it's important that people forget that because I think there's so much noise on LinkedIn and email that once you get like an actual personal note from somebody that's like legit, like written in the right way, it's, not, doesn't look like spam. I think they're willing to help, willing to like have a 15-minute phone call with somebody to be like, yeah, hey, like here's what I did. So I think like as a founder, keep that in mind. Like that's a big one. The second one was if you have an idea, like pitch it like crazy to everybody. Like we went to bars and parties and we would pitch Sendoso and pitch slash experts constantly to see what responses were. And you kind of hone how your pitch is and do that far before you ever start the business. And then like once you kind of have an idea of what you want to build, then you can start wireframing it out and go from there. So I think like that's important, like those two steps at the beginning before you do anything. And I think the third one is like you kind of like find a co-founder. I think finding a co-founder is important. I know people build alone. It's lonely. Like no one's managing my day. And so having co-founders is very nice because if I see like a green dot in their Slack, I'm like, okay, like we're all working, we're all good to go. And like, so I think that's important to have a co-founder, like someone who believes the same thing you believe, because doing it by yourself is really hard. Like I can't relate to that. I guess I'm a social person. I don't know. That's like 3 or 4 early lessons I learned that I need whenever I go and start a company.
Mm, absolutely. Well, that's super helpful. And I think the conversation or the debate as to whether you go solo entrepreneur route or go with co-founders, it is a challenging one. I
Yeah,
think it's easier if you've already kind of had those conversations and you already know the person.
for sure.
It can be trickier if you've got to go out there and find somebody and do what I think Young Soo Tang talked about, dating, to kind of find the perfect co-founder, because you're going to spend so much time together. So you need to be aligned on how you communicate and what your vision is.
It's for sure dating. I mean, like there's like in my phone, like it's my co-founder, my mother, and my wife who I talk to the most. And so like it's important to make sure you like that person. And like and that goes a long way. And there's certain things you can do to make sure, I mean, like to go out and to have a couple beers with them is important. And to make sure like after a couple beers, do you still like them? And so I think like things like doing like things like that is really important to go through, especially if you're gonna go through some hard times, some lonely times. Sometimes where like there's a very important thing that I have with my wife, which I recommend is if I'm having a really bad day, or if she's having a bad day, she's in tech too. We have like 2 motivational speeches, and like we'll ask like, "Hey, I need to be like pumped up," and she's like, "Great. Like, do you want like the hey, suck it up motivational speech and like just like power through? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Or do you want like the sentimental like, hey, you're right. You work so hard. You should go get a massage speech?" And so you got to ask. So like, if I'm like, "Hey, I need to be like pumped up," like, "Well, show us which one." Usually, I pick like suck it up because I respond better to that. And so then she'd be like, "Great." She's like, "You should suck it up. Like you're building a company. Like this is like fun and exciting. So like, stop being a wuss." And I'm like, "That's fair." And so like I would say like for your partner, for your co-founder, whoever it is, like having like have them knowing what you're going through is helpful, and like being able to like and asking them to pump you up is good because you have days, weeks, or even hours where you're like, "Man, this sucks." And next hour you're like, "This is kind of cool." Like it goes by the hour for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like your wife needs to be a co-founder. Maybe not of a paying business, but
No, she likes big company. She's a salesperson. I want her to stay there. She has that
oh,
base.
wow.
And she's the amazing benefits, and so, like, it's like I'm like, "Awesome, I'll join that and see if I can go build another company." So, that's always that's another hack. If you have your other half works at a big company, that's perfect. Like, I definitely recommend that for sure.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Brayden, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I've
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed your journey. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I hope you're going to come back next year, and give us an update on how the business is progressing.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.